Hello and welcome to Jump To It, brought to you by irishracing.com and Betting Expert. I'm Shane Anderson, and on today's show we'll be taking a look at day one of the Cheltenham Festival, highlighted by 4 Grade 1 races, including the Unibet Champion Hurdle. It's set to be one of the great days of racing. Joining me to preview the card as we welcome in Stephen Harris and Ed Quigley. Stephen, I'll start with you. The build-up has been enormous to Cheltenham this year. As we get closer to day one, what are you making of the fields? Are we missing any of the big name runners that you thought might be there?
I'm not sure about big names, but there's definitely less social runners this year. Obviously, there's not going to be a crowd. It's behind closed doors for all intensive purposes. The field sizes in the graded races do look a lot smaller than they might normally be. I think we were discussing previously that I think there's a lot of bookmakers who are going to have some pretty nasty books because the races don't look as competitive, certainly away from the handicaps, as they might have done previously. I've sort of done my form analysis thinking it's going to be nearly good ground. Certainly by later in the week, I'm expecting it to be good, maybe even on the faster side by Friday. There does seem to be sort of a bit of weather around. But Cheltenham does look like it's going to miss most of it. They might only get a few millimetres of rain, so it could be proper spring ground, which, again, I don't think there's going to be that many shock results, to be honest.
Well, Ed, you're our resident meteorologist, our resident weatherman, because you live so close to the course. What's the latest weather-wise?
Yeah, well, it was barely a drop of rain for 13 days, it has to be said. However, just before recording, it did absolutely hammer it down overnight. The storm that moved in, quite a bit of substantial rain. But again, it seems to be the forecast for the next 2 or 3 days, like for the Friday, Saturday and Sunday. It's kind of mix of showers and sunshine, and then it looks set fair for a dry week predominantly at the Cheltenham Festival, with temperatures moving up into double figures. I mean, at the time of recording, the latest update from the clerk of the course at Cheltenham was ground had officially dried to good to soft in places, but I have a feeling that will ease slightly with the rain that has hit the track and the showers that are en route. But the underlying kind of point is, as I say, it went off pretty much on heavy ground to start the day at Cheltenham Festival last year. I'll be shocked if the ground's anywhere near that. I think it's soft would be the softest I could see it starting. I think, yeah, good to soft looks a fairly safe bet for day one.
Quick question before we get your thoughts on the races. Are there any horses that you thought would be there but aren't? How do you assess the overall strength of the fields this year?
In answer to your first question, no. I think all pretty much the usual suspects are all turned up, or at least you would think will be turning up and are in the races you would think they would be in. As ever, it seems to be a little bit of a case more with the Irish horses, like your Mullins, de Bromhead yards. They seem to be left in about 7 different races until the 11th hour. Yet on every preview night, they claim they're 100% going for target X, if you see what I'm saying. So could be a few late switches and tripwires. Often there's a few trainers who've got a bit of history for that, going back through the years, of course. But mainly, I say all the big guns are there. You're going to get in the grade ones. I think you're looking at a lot of 6-7 runner fields, but that's touching back on the kind of Stephen's point. The kind of 50-1 social runners aren't there. It's not to say that the 5 or 6 that do line up aren't high class horses. There's multiple grade 1 winners going to post here, and so you're going to get small but select fields in the graded races. The handicaps look like they'll still be pretty juicy, and you'll be looking at your usual 20 runner plus affairs.
Great insight. Let's take a look now at some of the key races on the card. Guys, the first of the races that we'll have a look at is the SkyBet Supreme Novices Hurdle, a race that's been won by many top-class horses, including Shishkin last year, the likes of Altior back in 2016. The overall strength this year, Stephen, from your perspective, how do you assess it compared to what we've seen in years gone by?
Yeah, I think it's a really good race. I'm up for unoriginal selection. I've got quite a few unoriginal selections today, I must admit, on the opening day. I think Appreciate It, who has shortened right up. I think he's 5-4 now. Holds outstanding form claims. I love the way he jumps. He's a real strong traveller. I think they'll nearly front run on him. They know he stays 2 mile 4 really well. All of his form is on pretty soft ground, so he's a relentless galloper. He jumps soundly. I love the fact that he ran an absolute blinder in the Champion Bumper last year when a heavily backed 15-8 favourite, just beaten by Fernie Hollow there, but he didn't do anything wrong. He travelled strongly. The track's no problem. They'll ride him handy in the first 2, and I think it'll take a really good effort to get past him. Meteor is the English challenger who looks the most likely. Harry Fry's had a really disappointing winter in the main, but the last couple of weeks things have come back to life a bit, and this one was really impressive when winning last time out at Sandown, but all of his form is on really testing ground. Whether he's going to be able to live with the Irish horses on good ground is open to question.
All right, appreciate it on top for Willie Mullins, who looks set to have an amazing week. He's got so many of the main contenders in the big races. But Ed, I know that you've been quite keen on Ballyadam. You've talked about him on previous editions of this show. Are you sticking with him?
Yes, absolutely. I agree with Stephen to the point of that I think Appreciate It is the right favourite because of the evidence we've seen on the racetrack this year. You can't not make him favourite, if you see what I'm saying. But again, bore everyone to tears in regards to the ground. And it was just Jamie Codd's insight into when he rode Ballyadam in both his bumper starts. So it was absolute chalk and cheese. The horse got beat at 1-4 and heavy, ran him on basically good ground. He won 20 lengths head in his chest. And he's been traipsing around in the Irish winter on these kind of slowly run heavy ground affairs, chasing home Appreciate It shadow. And I just thought there was encouragement last time out. You know, he's beaten 12 lengths at Christmas when he scoped badly. He narrowed the gap to about 3.5 lengths last time out at the Dublin Racing Festival, and he clattered the last hurdle. If the ground does continue to dry and we get, officially good to soft ground as opposed to soft to heavy, I don't think he has masses to find of Appreciate It. And I think he's almost becoming a little bit of the forgotten horse in it around the 13-2 mark. And I think Ballyadam is naturally the quicker horse. Appreciate It in 2 years' time. You can see going up in 3-mile chases and looking at Gold Cups and stuff. So I'm with ground being the key angle here. I'm looking for Ballyadam as the each way alternative.
All right, Ballyadam at the each way. I just want to get your view on Soaring Glory, another horse that's well in the market, Ed, but there is a chance that he may not take his place.
Yes, indeed. It was interesting, wasn't it? Listening to comments of John Joe O'Neill, his trainer, who said, John Joe's not fully committed to the race himself, but more importantly, Soaring Glory's owners, they're basically, to cut a long story short, not want to misquote them, but they're of the view that if the fact they can't really be there in person with 70,000 people in the crowd to welcome him back into the winners' enclosure, they'd almost rather not go and save him for a time when he can really enjoy that moment. It was an interesting kind of viewpoint, but it goes to show the kind of knock-on effect and the kind of wider spread issues of what the COVID-19's had. You wouldn't even contemplate it. I thought, crikey, you've got a third or fourth favourite for the Supreme. You run him even if you can't see the race. But no, it believes the owners are, the fact they can't really be there to soak it up and enjoy it in full is leaving them a bit of a 50-50 late calls to whether they do or not. It'd be a shame because he's a progressive horse and his form's working out well. But I suppose most firms, all firms now are non-run and no bet, but at least just bear that in mind. He could be pulled at the 11th hour.
Next race we'll take a look at is the Sportinglife Arkle, a chase race that we've seen, again, many a top-class horse emerge through, including last year's winner at a good price, Put the Kettle On. As we have a look at this year's edition, Stephen, it certainly looks to be an intriguing contest, probably one of the most intriguing of the week. There looks to be this emerging star in Shishkin and Energeumene, certainly another one that's got big raps, as well as Allmankind. How are you assessing it?
I think the key to this race is Dan Skelton's Allmankind. He's a tearaway front runner. When he first appeared at Warwick, the whole yard thought he was going to be unrideable. They could hardly get him to post. He bolted at home. They could barely control him. But he's really settled down. He's still a tearaway front runner, but he's been a revelation over fences this winter. That being said, I don't particularly fancy him. I think he'll lead. I think he's a spoiler for Energeumene, who also wants to front run to be seen his best, what we've seen in Ireland this winter anyway. I think Allmankind, although he's won at Cheltenham, he has disappointed twice at Cheltenham as well. He was a short price on his seasonal reappearance over hurdles and ran a moderate race. He ran in the Triumph Hurdle, if you remember, last year, and he'd got beaten 30 lengths by Goshen, by that rival departing at the last. So I'm not convinced Cheltenham is his track, but I do think he's going to go a blistering gallop, possibly spoil Energeumene, and I think that Shishkin, I think de Boinville's going to be riding him again, unfortunately, but I think he'll sit third and he'll just pick them off up the hill. He's a tremendous horse, he's a superb jumper. He reminds me of Altior and Sprinter Sacra from the same stable.
So Shishkin at the moment is an odds-on favourite, 10-11 or 11-10 on. You mentioned Allmankind at 13-2, so you don't want to be near him. Ed, which way are you looking at it?
I would echo a lot of Stephen's sentiments there. I think this race will be set up perfectly for Shishkin. He's the supreme novice hurdle. And let's not forget, if you go back 12 months ago, he pretty much had every excuse in the book not to win that supreme. He drifted from 9-4 to 6-1 on the day on the count of Nicky Henderson was terrified about the ground. He nearly got brought down with all the carnage going on as they turned into the home straight. Yet I thought he showed a brilliant blend of class and stamina and will to win, to get the job done, to beat Abracadabras. And they pulled a long way clear of Chantry House and some very good horses. I just think he's the class act. He's taken defences like a duck to water. I remember his second jump in public at Kempton was an absolute wow factor, wasn't it, on his chase debut? He took off, and there were shades of Sprinter Sacra coming back to you on the basis of that. Obviously, he's got to go and get it done in open company to be up with that kind of level, recognised at that level, but he looks to have all the tools to go right to the top. I've gone back through all his chase debuts, looked at every fence. I can only find 2 occasions where he got in slightly close. The remarkable thing was how quick and organised he was at sorting his legs out and getting away from the obstacle. He looks an absolute natural. I think, as Stephen says, Allmankind, Energeumene, there'll be a lot of pace going on at the head of affairs, and I think Shishkin will pick up the pieces. And if there was one, I think would then pick up the rest of the pieces, if you like. I think Captain Guinness will be really more restraint here on drying ground. I wouldn't be at all surprised if he kind of stayed on past beaten runners to follow Shishkin home. But I think Shishkin, I say the home defence, if you like, are looking very thin and far between, aren't they, with the Irish domination this year? But I think Shishkin would be very disappointing, especially with forecast ground conditions, if he were to lose this.
All right, Shishkin as the odds-on favourite, a big push there, but I like the mention of Captain Guinness. I think he can get 14-1 with Bet365, so certainly looks a good each-way option if you want to steer clear of the favourite. Well, just a reminder too that Betting Expert will be running the Predictor competition again for Cheltenham this year. It's free to enter. Just head to bettingexpert.com, sign up. You need to put forward a tip in each of the races throughout the Cheltenham Festival, and we've got some great prizes, including a good cash prize for those who come out on top each and every day of the week. All right, guys, let's move on to the next race, and it is in many ways the big one of the day of day one at Cheltenham, and that is the Unibet Champion Hurdle over 2 miles. It's always a fantastic race. We could usually see it go the way of the market. Stephen, which way do you think it'll go this year?
Well, I've sided with Epatante, who's now become a fair price. I think she's 100-30 with Bet365, which on form looks very big. I think the key to this race at the moment, we don't know the final runners at this stage, but there's a couple of horses who've got no chance, Not So Sleepy and For Pleasure, who are both absolute tearaway front runners. They're going to be going 1,000,000 miles an hour, and I think Epatante's got a lovely makeup to glide round on the bridle. She'll absolutely love decent ground. In her early days, she was a very free-going sort. They struggled to get her settled, and this will be probably the best ground she's run on. She does come into it under a bit of a cloud, but that's why you're getting 100-30. I think she ricked her back slightly when she was disappointing at Kempton over Christmas. There's a horse in there, Silver Streak, who beat her at Kempton, I think, it's $1 million. He was able to dominate. He won't be able to this time. Goshen, for me, the horse we talked to Gary Moore about last week, all of his form is on heavy ground. I think on goodish ground he's going to really struggle. I still have at the back of my mind a nagging doubt about him physically. I didn't like how he ran on the flat twice. I didn't like how he was absolutely tailed off last time he ran at Cheltenham. He did bounce back at Wincanton, but to be truthful, that was a bit of a joke race. Song for Someone ran no kind of race, got beaten 22 lengths. So I don't fancy Goshen. I think I might lay him a place. Epatante for me. I think Honeysuckle's the danger. Just got a slight niggling doubt in the back of my mind about Honeysuckle on really good ground. Might be short of a bit of speed, but she won't be far away. But at the prices, Epatante for me.
All right, Epatante to go back-to-back and win her second champion hurdle. Ed, are you seeing it similarly?
I don't know is the answer. I think there's question marks about a fair few of these. I mean, Epatante, we were discussing it on a previous show. She's 130. That could look an unbelievable price given on what she did last year. But then at the same time, you're backing a mare at 130 who got thumped last time out, riser after a near 3-month break, and has had kissing spine issues. I don't quite know what to make of her, to be honest with you. Goshen, not for me, just from a price perspective. If you could swap the ground around and say this was heavy, perhaps put it on a flatter track, then I think he would come to the equation. And again, I think he has questions to answer still at the top level. I suppose the percentage call probably is Honeysuckle, and that's why she is favourite. She's never lost a race. She's got previous winning Cheltenham Festival form. I think Stephen's point is a good one. If the ground did really dry up, but it was on the quick side of good to soft, 2 miles on the old course is a totally different kind of scenario to everything she's been used to recently. You know, she dominated in heavy ground last time out in Ireland. When she dropped back to 2 miles in the Irish Champion Hurdle last year, which I believe was on good to yielding, she only scraped home by about 3/4 of a length to Petit Mouchoir, which of course she still won the Irish Champion Hurdle, but literally on the collateral form, that was a big drop off from what else she'd been showing. So that's my only negative about her. So essentially, where I've got question marks about all the top 3, I'm with abracadabras each way, because I just think, as Stephen says, there's an absolute, seems to be a bit of a mantra for this day. There's going to be a load of pace on the head of affairs. It sounds like Not So Sleepy definitely will run. Goshen only appears to have one kind of way of running. That will be to go forward. I think there's going to be a lot of pace on here, and that will set it up for some closers. Sharjah probably has to come into the equation, given that he finished runner-up in this last year. But I think abracadabras, he gets called a lot of names. Not done a lot wrong, in all honesty. I think drying ground to suit him. He's an excellent traveller. He did everything, of course, but win the Supreme last year. And of course, the Yarber out of form at Christmas. And I just think he's a little bit of the forgotten horse again now. I mean, they're still around the double figures kind of mark. I find it a bit dark personally. Whenever I did this tissue, I had him around 11-2, 6-1 mark. I think he'll jump, he'll travel, he'll be coming into the home straight going as well as anything in the field. I suppose the negative is what he will quite find off the bridle. We don't know, but I think people are a little bit unfair to him last year. I thought we found plenty. They pulled 11 lengths clear of the third in the Supreme. I think he's going to be back right in the mix. If Abracadabra is out of 3, I'll be disappointed, is my bottom line.
Well, for your sake, I hope he's called a winner for a horse that gets called numerous names. But I think if you're getting around that sort of 10-1 mark, he certainly looks a really good each-way option there. But it's going to be a fascinating race. I must admit, I dived into Goshen after talking to Gary Moore last week. He was super confident in the way that he spoke about the horse, so I thought we may as well stick solid with Gary. Well, plenty of other feature races on the card, including the Grade 1 race for the mares. This is the Clothes Brothers Mares Hurdle Race. We've got a short prize favourite in Concertista, who's currently odds on, but I don't think it's as short as that when it comes to, Stephen, the determination of this race. I actually think it could be a little bit of a tricky affair, despite the fact she does look the one to beat.
Yeah, I think she's a progressive and on the upgrade. She's been trained for the race. Perhaps Roxana of Dan Skelton will be better value. I think one of them's 5-4 and Roxana's about 7-2 at the moment, which seems a fair enough price. She's come back better than ever. She's got loads of form at Cheltenham. The only time she's been beaten this winter was behind Paisley Park and Time Hill, which I think they're the front two for the Stayers Hurdle, and that is very strong form. She's a smooth traveller. The only thing about Roxana, it's been a bugbear of mine since she ran at Fontwell about 3 or 4 years ago. Her tail, if you watch her run, is at 90 degrees. She's like an old horse called Kildimo, who used to have his tail sticking out. And often that signals they're feeling something. Now, with Roxana, it definitely doesn't. It's just a trait. But it's something that always drives me mad whenever she runs, that her tail's at 90 degrees. But I think it's between the two of them on form. It's not a race I want to be heavily financially involved. I think the prices are about right, to be truthful.
Well, Concertista, I think, is at 6-5 with Paddy Power at the moment. Roxana a little bit bigger. So there's nothing else in the race you'd be tempted by. But you did say it's not a race that you're super keen on compared to some of the others.
I think if I had to choose at the prices, I'd go for Roxana because she has got a bit of speed. She's a strong traveller with a turn of foot. And she's done her winning at places like Wetherby. She's always run well at Cheltenham whenever she's come here, and drying ground would definitely suit her.
All right, Roxana, perhaps there from Stephen. Ed, which way are you going?
Yeah, just on value grounds, I'd generally be against Concertista. Obviously, we don't know what the ground will be like. She's progressive, but she does have a high old knee action on her, this mare, and she ploughed through the mud at the Cheltenham Festival last year, looked really at home with it. And it's, of course, again, we've had nothing else to race on all winter other than very testing ground. That would only just be my slight concern. And she's priced up as if she's a long way clear of these. I think she's rated officially the same as Roxana, and she's only £3 or £4 clear of some of the other rivals in here. She's priced up as if she's already done it. I'm not quite convinced just from a price perspective. So obviously a few weeks ago I put up Dame de Compagnie at a double figure price for this last year's Coral Cup winner. It sounds like she's going to run. She's got the course form in the book. Arguably lacks a little bit of class, but ground will be fine. I think she'll be there or thereabouts. And if there was a kind of really left of field one, last year's Martin Pike winner, Indefatigable for Paul Webber. She's got very good course form, as you would expect from being a previous festival winner, and crucially, all her best form has come when the sun has come out. So I know her price has started to contract in recent days on the assumption we all get good to soft on day one. Of course, she's hated a wet winter. So, basically, I'm just generally against the favourite value grounds, and I'm kind of Dame de Compagnie and Indefatigable as two kind of value picks against her.
Well, I think you both make really good points. Considering Concertista is one of the shortest price favourites of the week, you can pick holes in her form, so we might be able to find a little bit of value out of that. One race historically that we find value out is the Boodles Fred Winter, the big handicap hurdle race. More often than not, it's won by an outsider. Stephen, do you think it could be an outsider's race again this year?
It could be. I think it's wide open betting, and it looks that. I've got a short list of two at the moment. Riviera d'Etel, if you'll pardon my French. I'm not absolutely sure she's going to run, but she's completely unexposed. She's a hard puller. She's only had a few runs over hurdles so far, and she hasn't really settled yet. I think a big field handicap on better ground could really suit her. It's a bit guessworky because you're not really sure whether she's well handicapped or not. She's got very little experience over hurdles, but I don't think they'd be running her if they didn't think she was reasonably treated. And Gary Moore's Nassalem, again, I'm not sure he's definitely going for the Boodles, but he's another horse who's been quite free in small fields. He bumped into Montmiral at Haydock last time on deep ground. This will be Nassalem's first run away from really bad ground. And if he drops the bit in a big field, he could go well. They're both double-figure prices, I think. It's a fascinating race, one of the hardest races of the day.
Well, the first push there for Riviera d'Etel, I think she's currently at around 11-1 with William Hill, so that looks a really good each-way option. Ed, which way are you going?
Obviously ultra competitive, yet to know exactly who's turning up. Listening in regards to Nassalam's an interesting horse. It sounds like Gary Moore would rather he went for the Triumph, but it sounds like the owners are pushing for this race. So I think there's going to be a bit of a socially distanced, heated discussion at the 11th hour there in regards to that horse. But Paul Nicholls has got a good record in this race. It's obviously it's a relatively new race. It's only been around the 15 years or so. He's won it 3 times, and he's got a bit of form for not winning it with the first string, if you like. He did it back in 2015 with his third string, his most unfancy runner, Qualando. I just wonder whether Hal Red is a little bit of a forgotten horse in here. I think Brian Frost will probably take the ride. Now, if you go back to his Chepstow win back in October, it was on pretty quick ground, and the horse looked absolutely fantastic. Okay, he didn't beat a great deal, but bolted up head in chest by 12 lengths. Since then, got up in grade, has tackled very testing ground and is disappointed. Has had a corrective surgery for a wind issue that they noticed. And let's not forget, he set off 11-10 to win a grade 2 at Cheltenham the back end of last year. Clearly, the horse who's had his issues, then was beaten again at 4-11 on his comeback after 3 months. But again, was absolutely bottomless ground at Wincanton. And Paul Nicholls, to be honest with you, I think was actually quite happy with that, because the handicapper's given him an absolute gift in dropping Hal Red £3 on the back of a run, which essentially was a prep run to get him fit for this. So all the talk's been about is stablemate Hugh Gree, who's been one of the most backed horses in this race in the build-up. But I just wonder whether the sleeper could be the Nicholls second string. On the assumption the ground's pretty decent, I think he's still around the 20-1 mark. I think Hal Red for Paul Nicholls could be a good each way play, and obviously shop around for your each way terms, because there could be definitely some value out there.
All right, a lovely long price selection there. 20-1 Hal Red. I think 20-1 still available there with William Hill. Guys, just a brief thought on the card. Are we striking early? Do you think your confidence levels are perhaps a bit stronger at the front end of the card with the likes of Shishkin stepping out, or throughout the day, Stephen, do you think we can strike winners all the way through?
I think if it's good ground, I think Shishkin appreciate it. Epatante, they're all pretty solid. I think this first day does look a punter's day. Now, it's Cheltenham. Things happen at Cheltenham, but it does look a bit smaller fields. The graded races don't look that competitive. Often they get things to happen because there's 4 or 5 in a line jumping the first, and there's fallers and bad luck and hard luck stories. But This is much more like a sort of midweeky feel to it, with the smaller field sizes, less middle pins who look live runners. I mean, there's going to be an awful lot of money on Appreciate It, Shishkin, Epatante, Concertista. It could be a messy day for bookmakers.
All right, Ed, your thoughts?
Yeah, indeed. I'm always confident going into day one. I suppose we all are, aren't we? And it can often go totally sour. I've kind of got a lot of my colours to the mast already nailed. If you see what I'm saying, a kind of an anti-post good to soft book with Ballyadam, Hell Red, Abacadabras. Of those at the shorter prices, I think the race looks set up for Shishkin. You know, I don't back anything under 5-1 or 10-1 really these days. I like to, you know, as you say, fire in a few long shots and look for a bit of value. But Shishkin, in regards to, put it this way, Shishkin at 10-11 or Concertista at 5-4, I think it's a no-brainer. If you were forcing me to pick one at the prices, I think there's an argument Shishkin should be shorter. And as I said, I think he's the horse I'm most looking forward to running, irrelevant of bets on day one. I think we could be seeing a new superstar, and I hope we do.
All right, great work, guys. Look forward to catching up with you for the preview of day 2 very soon. There is Stephen Harris and Ed Quigley, and it's really great to get their insights there. And of course, they'll also be back on each and every day of the Cheltenham Festival. We'll be live streaming an edition of Jump to It at 10 a.m. GMT. So if you're in the UK, 10 a.m. each and every day. And we'll look forward to getting their daily thoughts for the meeting. Well, we've also been asking our audience to get involved in providing their thoughts around some of the big races. It's been fantastic to get plenty of tweets and also messages on our YouTube channel. And we can see Phil's quite keen on Goshen going towards the champion hurdle, I think off the back of some very strong comments from Gary Moore last week, and also quite keen on the likes of a couple of the others in markets in big races, Monkfish, Chacun Soir, Envoy Allen. So just might be favourites delight there for Phil with his thoughts. Randolph's also put forward some views, very keen on Epatante, just feels that she's far too superior than her rivals in the champion hurdle as the Wonder Mare tries to go back to back. And also great to get some insights from Kev, who's very keen on Goshen. If he can dominate the race from the front of the field, he might just be unbeatable from there. Well, it's been great talking to you today, giving our previews for Jump to It for the Cheltenham Festival, of course, courtesy of irishracing.com and Betting Expert. Head to irishracing.com, get all the latest fields, news, opinions and tips, and Stephen Harris's tips on bettingexpert.com each and every day with his nap and also value bet for racing in the UK. Hope you've enjoyed today's edition of Jump to It. We'll see you again for the preview of day 2.